training facility as I raise my voice so y'all can hear me. I'm Nathan Rudolph with AJ Hafley as always, and if you're watching live, I'm sure you've noticed that we have a special guest in Conor Timmins on the pod with us today. Conor, thanks for coming on. I hope you're doing well. I hope practice was good.
Yeah, it was. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no problem. Glad to have you on. We're just going to talk to you kind of about how you got here to today. So, AJ, if you want to jump in and start us off here.
Yeah, we're not going to waste a whole lot of time, So we're just we're gonna get right into it. We want to talk to you kind of about this journey that you've been on. You know, it's been kind of a crazy story the last couple of years for you. You know, you were drafted at the top of the second round, and was you and Cale Makar, a lot of expectations, and you guys both were having really strong D+1 years, and then showed up at WJCs on Team Canada together. First of all, what was it like at WJCs to play with a fellow Avs prospect like that together at times?
Yeah, that was probably one of the best experiences of my life to date. And then to have Cale there with me, it was just really comforting, having a friendly face in the room and someone you can kind of go through things with. And it was nice to kind of just build some chemistry. So hopefully one day we can join up here.
You guys obviously had a very successful run that year with the gold medal, and the two of you named the three best players from Team Canada during the tournament, and you guys kind of monopolized that.
Yeah, I thought first of all, Cale was great in that tournament. He really showed his offensive upside with limited opportunity, really, and just to be on the ice with someone like that, it was pretty special. And the whole tournament for myself and him was just a really special experience.
You ended up picking up the gold medal winning assist in that final game. This is a couple years ago now, but I'm sure that's a moment that stuck with you. And was that kind of one of the highlights of your career so far?
Yeah, for sure. That's something I'll never forget. That night was one of the best nights of my life, and obviously I'm trying to build on that. It was a great moment in my career, but I want to keep moving forward and build on that for sure.
Yeah. Kind of moving on to the next steps of that year for you, you went back to Sioux for the rest of the year and really had one of your best regular seasons in juniors that year. Kind of walk us through the process of your growth coming off of that.
Yeah, obviously after that tournament, you have a lot of confidence coming from playing the best players in the world at your age group. So to go back to junior, you don't really want to have a letdown. You want to kind of keep building on that. And I just try to really build on my game, build on my offense, and really help our team because we had a really strong team in the Sioux that year, and we're definitely going for a run there.
That run, unfortunately did end a little sooner than you guys would have liked. I'd like to unfortunately delve into some of this. I'm sure it was inevitable, but the hit that gave you that concussion, you did come back in that game. And so, when did you really start to feel the effects of it?
Yeah, I didn't really start to feel the effects of that till the following morning. The rest of that night I felt fine. I was tested, went through all the right protocols, and it was fine to go back into the game. And then later the next morning, I started to feel it. So the Sioux did a good job. They did everything they could for me, and that was just what happened.
So it was the next day,
yeah.
And then what? You just wake up and you're feeling cloudy, or?
Yeah. The next day just didn't feel right. Had a bit of a headache. Neck was tight, and just knew something was wrong.
Yeah, I mean you're not supposed to wake up like that.
Yeah, no, typically not.
Yeah, so that starts your okay, something's wrong, and then so you go into the team and they tell you, hey, you have a concussion.
Yeah, that was pretty much how it went. Next morning, I went to the trainer, told him what was up. He just said, knew I had a concussion. We went through all the testing and the protocols, and realized I wasn't ready to play.
And so that rules you out for the rest of their run, and that it unfortunately did end a little soon. And then you get into summer, and it just doesn't get better.
Yeah, I think for the first couple weeks, just tried to rest up and get back into some exercise, some light exercise, and obviously the symptoms kind of hung around, and so I came up to Colorado and we started going through some treatment and stuff, and obviously we know what happened. It was a long year and a half, and symptoms kind of just were nagging at me and wouldn't go away, but I'm feeling a lot better now.
This was an organization with a little bit of history going through some concussion issues. They had Joey Hishin in the past and Jesse Winchester. What gave you the confidence in them that with such an unknown field with the concussions and everybody, they're so different and recovery is different for everybody. What kind of gave you the confidence that they had a handle on it?
I really respect the organization for what they did for me. They really wanted to make sure I was ready, and I knew they had my best interest at heart. And for me, they gave me all the resources I needed to get better. They gave me all the time, so I just really trusted them from the get-go. And Matt Sokolowski kind of spearheaded the whole thing, and he's been really great for me for this.
What kind of resources did they provide for you?
Just different variations of treatment. I went and saw quite a few doctors, different PTs, and just tried a bunch of different things till we found something that worked.
Were the effects fairly consistent as far as in the beginning of dealing with the concussion, or was it kind of an evolving process that it would be better some days, worse others?
Yeah, obviously with that you can't tell how each day is going to go. Some days I'd wake up feeling pretty good, and other days I wouldn't really want to leave my room. So there's bad days and good days, but I think what we were looking for was just gradual progress, and as that started to come, obviously you feel a little more hopeful and kind of start feeling better each day.
When did you start to feel like those signs of progress were really starting to show up?
It was hard to say just because it was so gradual. I think there's just certain days where you look back on other days and think, wow, I feel a lot better than I did a month ago or a couple weeks ago. So I think it was just kind of gradual day-to-day things where you're thinking, wow, I feel a little better than I did, and you just try and build on that.
Was obviously going into it, I'm sure you weren't expecting it to take as long as it did, but when did you start to realize that this was something a little bit more serious?
Yeah, probably a couple months in, I started to realize that this was going to take some time and I was going to need some pretty extensive treatment. But you never really know. It could be a couple months and then a week later you feel better. So I just try to take it day by day and worry about getting better every day.
You know, the season last year started to approach, and it became obvious you weren't quite ready. How difficult was that for you, knowing you're supposed to be starting your pro career here, and you just can't get quite right?
Yeah, it was definitely a weird feeling. Probably for the past 15 years prior to that, it was the same cycle, hockey season, summer, so to be coming up on the season and not being ready to play was definitely a weird feeling, and then for it to be one of the most probably important seasons in my life coming up, that made it especially tough. But I just tried to stay positive and work on the things I could and kind of, like I said, take it day to day.
It's kind of remarkable, honestly, that you were as patient as you were with it, because there were signs throughout the season. You practiced regularly. You were on the ice with the guys. It started to look like, hey, you're really making some progress here, but you guys still decided to hold you out of games.
Yeah, we wanted to make sure everything was 100% ready before I came back. We didn't want to risk anything. Obviously, it seems like a long time in the year that you're missing, but you have a long career ahead of you, hopefully. So I just wanted to make sure that everything was feeling good and I could be fine for the rest of my career.
Who helped you kind of instill that mindset? Or, did it just come naturally, that kind of optimistic view of, I'm going to be doing this for the next 15 years, this 1 year sucks, but the long run is what matters here?
Yeah, it was really a group effort. I think talking with my parents, my agent, Joe, Betsy, Matt Sokolowski, the whole organization was definitely on board, and that definitely made it a lot easier for me to know that I could sit out that year if I wasn't feeling well and still have an opportunity within this organization. So that was really a great feeling.
And then, you're around the AHL team, they go on a playoff run. You're around an NHL team that's going on a playoff run. McCarr's having a great year at UMass. Everywhere around you, those guys are on the ice and they're having a high level of success. The competitor in you had to be kind of itching and scratching to get back involved.
Yeah, obviously being around those guys, it would have been nice if I could jump in and help out, but it was still nice to see those guys have that success, because you hang out with those guys all year, you're around them, and you see how hard they work and the camaraderie in the room. So for them to have that success, it was actually nice to see.
How was managing the travel through all of this? Because you spent a lot of time bouncing around, whether it be just from Denver to Loveland, or at times going all the way back to Ontario, whether it was for treatment or just kind of sorting out a living situation. How did you kind of manage being here and having to move around like that?
Yeah, it wasn't too hard. I think I just kind of stayed ready to move at all times. Like I said, I've been taking everything day to day for the last year and a half, so wherever I needed to be, I was ready to go there. And if I thought it was the best for me, then I'd be definitely open to it. So like I said, just trying to take things day to day and have an open mindset.
Managing a lot of that season, particularly practicing alone, I imagine it would have to be a frustrating experience. But how much of that was just not being able to get on the ice with your teammates as compared to managing the symptoms?
I'd say it was more so managing the symptoms. We tried to take things step by step, and that was kind of one of the first steps, just me skating by myself, and then kind of evolved to me skating with Sean and the injured guys, and then getting into morning skates and then practice. So it was definitely an evolution of that, but I owe a lot to Sean Allard. I skated a lot with him, and I think that really helped my game in the long run because I got to work on a lot of things that I might not have had the time to in a regular season setting. So to be able to put in that work with him and know I'm getting better every day, even though I wasn't playing, it was a good feeling.
You know, you did miss an entire year of development, but you were on the ice with a skills coach. How did you guys kind of attack that part of developing your game, even though you couldn't play in games?
Yeah, we tried to make some situations as game-like as possible and work on things that were more D-specific for me. I often gave him stuff that I'd like to work on, and he'd help me out with that, and I think it was really beneficial in the long run.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked to a number of guys over the last year since they hired him, and every single one of them who's gone through the injury process has said that he was pivotal in helping them get back on the ice and be ready to play when they were.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that goes unnoticed with Sean is the effect he has off the ice as well. He's such an energizing presence, and he's really optimistic all the time and helps guys a lot off the ice as well with their injuries and fighting through that. So he really goes unnoticed sometimes, but he's a huge part of this organization.
So he's kind of part coach, part counselor when you need him to be?
Yeah, pretty much.
One of the knocks on you when you were drafted was your skating ability. You're picked as more of a cerebral, offensive, two-way type defenseman. With the ability to still skate while dealing with the symptoms, is that something you tried to focus on improving?
Yeah, that's kind of been a knock on me my whole life, and I've always been working pretty hard to improve that. But at the same time, I don't think it's ever really been a hindrance in my game. But yeah, if you have extra time, I always try and put in work for my skating, and that's something I'm pretty diligent on.
You know, you're in an organization that emphasizes skating, and everywhere you show up in training camp, and you've got guys like McCarr and Gerard and even Eric Johnson, he's a monster, and he still skates the way that he does. Does it help to be in an environment that emphasizes that skill set?
Yeah, for sure. And I think one of the things about the Avalanche organization is people kind of play fast for skate fast, whereas you can play fast without really being one of the faster skaters on the ice. It's how you think the game and how you move pucks up to the forwards quick and break out quick. So I think that's something that I've always kind of strived with, and so that's really helped me in this organization and their systems.
We saw you play that first game in Anaheim. That easy, huh? I mean, you showed up back in the lineup, and you and Byram were together, and you guys dominated Vegas, and the two of you kind of just did whatever you wanted that day.
Yeah, I think obviously playing with Bo made it a lot easier for me. We had a pretty good chemistry there, and he's obviously a very cerebral D and moved pucks really well and gave me a lot of time to make plays. So that really helped me coming into my first game, playing with a guy that can give me that much time with the puck. And I just tried to keep it simple and kind of get back to what I've been doing. But yeah, I never really felt like over the last year and a half I've lost a step. I know some people had concerns about that, but for me, I just wanted to keep playing my game and get back to the high level I was playing at.
One of the moments that I thought that I took away from that entire weekend in Anaheim, you got the puck and you left some guy in the dust and you skated right through the center of the ice, and it looked kind of like the play where you got hit, and no fear. You go into the zone, you make the play, you make the pass, and that was one of the concerns, because we had watched Joey Hisham, who had destroyed the OHL when he played in it. And when he got back, and by his own admission, could not play the same way, could not get himself mentally to play the same kind of fearless style, especially going through the center of the ice. Your first game back, you're like halfway through that game, and you go flying down the middle of the ice. It just didn't seem to affect you at all.
Yeah, I think that was one of my goals going into that first game, kind of to just focus on hockey and not really think about anything else. And we've put in the work over the past year and a half to get me to a point where I don't really have to think about that. And for me, that was just kind of a nice relief to be in that game and just be thinking about hockey, because I haven't really had that over the past couple of years, so it's been nice.
Was it when that, because I remember coming and talking to you after that game. I talked to you and Byram, and it just seemed like he was just having all the fun in the world, right? Like life was easy for him. But you seemed like you were relieved, almost like, hey, I just played a hockey game, and that was that.
Yeah, obviously, I love the game. I've stated that multiple times, and for me, it was just really nice to be out there. I wasn't even really too focused on how I did. It was just a great feeling to be out there with guys and having that competitiveness again.
And you get into training camp, and you get into these preseason games, and I remember your first training camp, one of your first preseason games you had played with Eric Johnson, and after that game, ended, we were all filtering in to come and talk to you guys after the game, and EJ walking out of the room looked at you and said that was our best player tonight. And you were one of the last cuts that year. This year, here we are, it's the week of opening night, you're still here. You haven't played a professional game, and yet you're proving that you belong.
Yeah, I think for me, everyone had kind of lower expectations this year and expected me to maybe start in the AHL. But for myself, going in, the goal was always to make this team. And I think I've showed pretty well. I've improved through every game and gotten better as camps went along. So I'm happy with how things have went so far and hoping to stick around a little longer.
With this preseason being fairly deep into it at this point, getting healthy, have the steps come pretty fast and furious so far? You have the level of competition at the rookie tournaments, which is probably something closer to your last real competitive games played in juniors, and then stepping into preseason, the fact that you're still here through all 6 games, you've seen it go from pretty much AHL level competition all the way up to near NHL opening night rosters. Has that been an easy adjustment, or have you really been just trying to keep up?
No, I think it's been a pretty easy adjustment. I think the incline has been pretty gradual, and the Avs have managed my minutes pretty well, starting in rookie tournament and then going into some games that were kind of a little more AHL-like, and then with more of my later games being a few more NHL players in the lineup. So I think it was more of a gradual build-up, and I think everything's been not easy, but I think I've managed it pretty well.
Officially, medically, you weren't cleared until getting into those first games. When did you start to feel like 100%?
I think towards the later part of the summer, it started to feel really, really good. Obviously, there's still some things you need to manage when you're out that long. Some things hang around, but yeah, definitely towards the end of the summer, I'd say probably a little bit after development camp, I was starting to feel like it's to a point where I might be able to get back in the lineup.
Well, get back in the lineup you did, and that Minnesota game, especially, you played a lot of minutes. You did something borderline illegal to poor Marcus Foligno, and scored that goal, and that had to be a pretty big boost for you to perform that well against a mostly NHL lineup that they had in Minnesota that night.
Yeah, I think I started off a little slow in that game, but definitely throughout the game I felt a lot more comfortable, and towards the end of the game I wasn't even really thinking about anything other than the fact that we were down a few goals and needed some offense. So I think that's usually when I'm at my best, when I'm thinking a little less and just playing, and so kind of just let my instincts take over. And obviously we had a really good lineup in that night, and everyone was working really hard, so it made it a lot easier for me.
What is your view on, obviously the NHL team's pretty good. It's made the playoffs the last couple of years. They've added a lot of depth. There are a lot of expectations around here. But you've also spent a lot of time with the AHL guys, and they've got, Kaut and Bowers and some of these other guys that are coming. Do you have confidence that this is the beginning of something potentially special here?
Yeah, for sure. You've kind of seen it the last 2 years. I think my first camp I came in and they were just coming off that 48-point season, and the expectations weren't too high, but now you look at the expectations coming into this year, and they're definitely a lot higher, and obviously everyone in the organization knows we have a really strong team, and it's even fighting for spots, it's a lot harder to get a job here. So I'm definitely really excited about the future of this organization. And even when you see the young talent in Loveland, all those guys have progressed a lot over the past summer, and it's definitely going to be a really exciting few years here in Colorado.
You say it's a lot tougher to win a job here, and you're as close as you can possibly get. What does that say to you about your performance in this preseason?
Yeah, I think for myself, I've played the way I wanted to. I've been working really hard, had a really good off season, so I'm proud of how I've performed here so far, but there's still a ways to go, and I don't want to just make the team. I want to be an impact player wherever I am, either in Loveland or here, but that's been a goal of mine. I never really want to just fit in. I always want to have a big impact on the game.
You've seen a number of players in your draft class make their NHL debuts, make NHL rosters for full seasons, even some old teammates like Rasmus Sandin also having a very strong preseason. Watching them all continue to move forward, was that kind of an extra little fire under you this preseason to really prove that you're all the way back?
Yeah, for sure. You see other guys kind of that were at the same level or maybe a little ahead of you or a little behind you, and you see them having success at the AHL level, and that definitely pushes you harder. You don't really want to fall behind, but at the same time, everyone has their own pace and develops at their own pace. So, you don't really focus on that. You just focus on when you're ready and where you are in your career and how you can get better.
Are your expectations to focus on more of the defensive side of the game, just looking at the Avs roster? They have a Cale Makar coming in, ran their power play last postseason. They have Sam Girard, who has done so as well. Or where do you see your role fitting in both in the NHL and the AHL?
To be honest, I don't really want to ever change my game. I think I've been a defensive and offensive player my whole life, and I think even being in a third pairing role, I can still offer that, still play strong defense and jump up when I have opportunities. Obviously, those two guys are going to do a great job on the power play, and they'll definitely be very offensive for us and put up a lot of points. They're great players, but for me, I don't really want to change my game. That's what got me here, and that's what's got me this look. So I'm looking forward to just playing my game out there.
How exciting is it to look at a blue line with this much talent, and especially you see, you're 20, and Makar, Girard, 20, 21, and then Paul Byram gets drafted, and the quartet, the four of you guys are like the future of this defense, and you're pretty much here already.
Yeah, I think obviously Cale and Sammy have done a great job so far, and me and Bo definitely have high expectations for ourselves. So if the four of us could be in this lineup in the next year or coming years, it would be very exciting. And I think all four of us are really looking forward to that, and just trying to contribute to this team because we have a great core, great young core, and we're really looking forward to doing some big things.
I don't know that it's going to take too long to go from the four of you guys contributing to the team to, being in the conversation with like a Nashville for having that kind of a special defense.
Yeah, that's definitely a goal of ours. We want to be one of the top defenses in the league, and I think obviously still have great older presences like EJ and Kohler and Z. So anyone can see that we have a great young group coming in, but we have to get there first, and we're just kind of worrying about making the team right now.
Zadorov's he's kind of an old man compared to you guys. He's 24, 25 years old, and been here for a while now.
Yeah, he's been here a while, and he's someone in the room we can kind of look up to, and offers a calming presence out there in preseason. So he's been really good for me.
And you guys could a lot of different skill sets between Z and Johnson and then Girard and Makar. How do you think that as a group, you guys all fit together, and where would you say you guys are league-wide?
I don't really want to comment on how we are league-wide. I think we just kind of focus on ourselves as a group and how we can get better. But I think everyone kind of offers their own thing, and everyone has their own skill sets that will be beneficial to this team. So they've all done a great job so far. They've been one of the top D groups the past 2 years, in my opinion. So I think me and Bo are looking forward to joining that group if we can, and we're really excited about this young core.
You wore 21 in juniors. You can't wear that here. The curse of number 18 is kind of a thing around here. You moved to 20 this year. Is there any significance to that number, or just what's available?
Not really. I think I wore 20 in my junior B year as a 16-year-old because I couldn't get 21 that year either. I wore 21 in minor hockey in junior, so 20 is kind of the closest I can get to that around here. So I'll just take that.
Well, and then you took 18, and you missed a year, and then you got rid of it, and now you're fine.
Yeah, I don't know about that. They just gave me 18. I was happy to get any number I could and be around the team. So, yeah, I'm happy with 20, and we'll see how that works.
We always joke about the curse of 18. Jesse Winchester did have it, and had the same concussion issues, and then you got it, and then it was always just kind of like a running joke amongst Avs fans. Is somebody needs to tell him to get rid of 18, and then you come into this preseason and you would change it to 20, and everybody was like, oh, well, he'll be fine now.
Yeah, I never even really heard of that, to be honest. Obviously, when Derek Brassard came in last year, he wanted 18, so they asked me what I wanted, I picked 20, but yeah, I never even heard of that curse, but 20 is a good number, so I'll take it.
It works out. It's working great for you so far.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm happy with it so far.
Yeah, you're on it's the verge of opening night. You're still focused on making the team one day at a time. Do you allow yourself to kind of peek forward a little bit and say you could be making your true NHL debut in a couple days here?
Yeah, it's hard not to. I think obviously when you're at the rink, you're just focused on taking each day as it comes and working on showing what you have and trying to get better. But yeah, it's hard not to peek forward, and when I'm sitting at the hotel for the rest of the day, kind of let your mind wander. But yeah, when I'm at the rink, I'm just focused on working my hardest and showing what I can bring to this team.
Are you gonna get a more permanent living situation this year?
Yeah, hopefully we'll see what happens.
Okay.
So nothing decided yet then?
No, nothing yet. Just living in the hotel for now. I'm pretty comfortable in there, so we'll see what happens. Yeah.
All right. AJ, any final questions?
I think I'm more or less all set. Appreciate you coming out and taking the time to talk to us.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
I got one last thing, if you're willing to. In your cheesiest radio announcer voice, can you give us, this is Conor Timmins, and you're listening to the DNVR Avalanche podcast?
Yeah. This is Conor Timmins, and you're listening to the DNVR Avalanche podcast.
Perfect. Thank you so much.